Is he the final piece in the Man United jigsaw for next summer? Like, you know, have no idea who'd be running it, but wouldn't he be just the perfect man to slot in then, and all United's problems disappear?
Yeah, I don't think United's problems are that simple. I think I've got on record for 18 months saying that the root of all United's problems is at centre back, and we saw it United even again against Arsenal when the front six press, the back four drop off, and I think N'Golo Kante would struggle in Man United midfield, as good and all as he is, because the spaces are too big. The back four drop off, the front four press, and then the two midfield players are just left in an ocean of space, and that's why United got played around so often under Solskjaer, and why teams had so much joy against them. So I think Declan Rice plus a centre back that can squeeze the pitch and hold a high line, and that would allow a midfield player to go and do midfield players' work then, and not have to constantly worry about minding the centre backs.
Is that Maguire?
Absolutely, yeah. I've been on record as saying that, whenever the ball turns over, you watch Maguire, his first instinct is to head for goal, his own goal. Whereas if you watch Van Dijk or Diaz, as soon as the ball turns over, they take a step forward and they trust that if the ball goes in behind, they have the pace. If they don't have the pace, they trust the goalkeeper to be there. And they get caught out every now and again when they play this way, but that's the modern way of playing, and that's why I'm so curious about what they do tomorrow. I've never been so excited for a football game. You'll see it in the first 5 minutes, what Rangnick is actually going to do. I don't believe that if United do squeeze the play and Maguire is forced to stand in the opposition half, shoulder to shoulder with a centre forward, with Lindelof, and that has to happen, because if that doesn't happen, then the pressure will get released and the opposition will get out regularly. The whole thing is predicated on back four pushing in and creating a wall of pressure in front of it. But whether Rangnick is but he's looked at United's squad and said, I can't play this ultra high press that the likes of Chelsea and Liverpool play, because I haven't got the players. So he's going to have some sort of a hybrid version of it. But these are all the questions I'm looking forward to seeing answered tomorrow.
53106, Brian's been in touch on the similar point there, Damien. Think Rangnick already realises Man U cannot play a high tempo pressing game since so many in the back four and midfield lack the legs needed. What I'm kind of fascinated about with Rangnick as well, I thought he was very impressive at the press conference yesterday, Damien, is managing Harry Maguire's club captain, Ronaldo, we know all about. Pogba will be back in the new year. It's the egos, it's the big personalities.
Well, you see, and these German managers are just so demanding, and they are very black and white. They tell you to do something, you do it. Now, how he sells that to the players, if he does try to kind of plumb awesome and mind them and get them to buy into it, or does he come in and lay down the law? And if you lay down the law and you don't get the response you're looking for, it can get out of hand very, very quickly. But these are all the questions that I'm looking forward to seeing answered over the next few weeks, really, because if he can come in and win the players over quickly and have the type of Jurgen Klopp personality and get them to buy into what he wants, and they do have legs, of course. I mean, they just need to make a few minor adjustments, But I don't think he's going to go full out. I'd be surprised. But obviously, any manager in any job in the world, the first thing you have to do is get your employees on side. Otherwise, they just won't do what you're saying, or they'll half-ass it. And if you half-ass a high press, well, you're going to get found out.
The dreaded buy-in. Just before we bring the other lads in, who can flourish under Rangnick, Damien, and who should be worried, do you think?
I think McTominay can flourish. I know he's some people criticise him, but I think he has the athleticism and he has the tenacity to play for a Rangnick type character. He just needs coaching. And I think he's lacked it, and he's kind of been put on the field the last couple of years and kind of just, go and do what you do. Whereas, I think if you give someone like him, he looks like a really smart guy. He looks like he's willing. Well, he is willing. And I think he can flourish. I think Bruno, again, I think he's suffering from just go on the pitch and do something, please, as opposed to being part of a system. And Bruno presses, but he presses off his own volition. He just runs off every now and again, out of time, because he feels like it's the right thing to do. But if he gets trigger points and he gets direction and he gets coaching, I think he can come back into form, absolutely. Because, again, he has the hunger and the tenacity and the desire to play that type of football. And I think Greenwood, Rashford, I think Wan-Bissaka could do reasonably well with it. Again, I feel sorry for the United fullbacks, because from a tactical point of view, the wide players for Man United stay high and wide, and it becomes like a traffic jam at times when the fullbacks are trying to join in, and you've they're on the same line as the wingers, and they almost kind of go, I can't run round you because I'll have to overlap you, because I'd have to run off the pitch, and when you try to underlap, what you'd normally find is Bruno's come over from the 10 position, but obviously when Bruno comes over, you bring defenders with you as well, and it gets very, very clogged up, and that's why they kind of hit cul-de-sacs really, or they just kind of run in an underlapping position. Whereas I think that if United play a certain way, you can get the most out of them, because again, athleticism is probably the number one thing that you need. Coachability and athleticism to play for these types of coaches, they're probably non-negotiables really. And I think that all the physical players who are capable of it will flourish, because if you're coachable as well and you listen to the coach and you buy into it, you can do well.
He wants the gig as well. He wants to, from yesterday, he wants that gig.
Yeah. What he said very clearly, he goes, well, it was in a previous job when I came in this position. After a year, I recommended to the board that it was probably a good idea to keep me on for a year. So he's already flagged that he's going to do that if he gets results. I'd really love to hear because Damien didn't mention Ronaldo there. I'd really love to.
Oh, we're getting to that. We have an hour and 40 minutes to get through.
But I just, if you're considering Rangnick's philosophy and everything he's always done and everything he's always preached, he's called the professor of it all. What does he tell Ronaldo to do when United don't have the ball? That has to be job one, doesn't it? That's to be instruction one, because to not play him brings a whole other element of pressure.
Absolutely, and that's why I kind of alluded at the top of the show that is he going to have a hybrid type? No, I know that famous line that was doing the rounds, you're either pregnant or you're not pregnant. There's no such thing as a little bit of pressing. I think that was his line that he used. You either press or you don't press. So that might rule out a hybrid type thing, But whenever I think of Ronaldo, the thing that comes into my mind is the famous Michael Jordan quote of, talent win games, teams win championships. And I think that it's kind of a two-pronged thing with Ronaldo. His statistics will be really high and everyone will say, well, he's scoring goals. But individuals don't win titles. You need a team to play well. So Ronaldo playing well and the team is not playing well is not a good thing. How do you fit him into the team? It's going to be very, very difficult. But you'd like to think that, in the interview process, whoever interviewed him for the job asked that question. We have a bit of an issue. Your style doesn't marry up to our superstar. What do you think you're going to do? And obviously he gave satisfactory answers. Because I remember when before United signed him, there was talk of Man City signing Ronaldo. And that kind of made more sense to me, really going to Man City, because they're a team that's possession based. I'm sure Ronaldo wouldn't have played every week. And he's playing in games where they have 75, 80% of the possession at times, and they pin opposition defences in, and Ronaldo doesn't really have to do a whole pile of work. But I suppose the first thing for United is ball retention. If they can retain the ball more, he'll have to run less, because he doesn't have to press as much if you're keeping the ball. I also read a quote recently with him that he doesn't like square or backward passes. So that means, when the ball turns over, they go for the juggler straight away. So how he fits into that. These are all the things I'm looking forward to. Has he got a plan for it? But it'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to it.
I imagine I wouldn't even say the interview process he was asked. I'd say he asked them, what do I do here with Ronaldo? Because it would be career suicide to take this job and not have a plan for Ronaldo, when it doesn't work, whether you half his games or whatever. But
well, it'll be an interesting point in the United project, because United in recent times have looked like an entertainment brand rather than a football club.
Yeah.
And they're going to get somebody in here now who's a serious man, who's the father of pressing in Germany, and this is the way he wants to do business. And if Ronaldo's out of the team, so what? We're planning here for the future. And if he can't get his methods and across, then his credibility is shot. And then there's no point in having him as technical consultant for the next 2 years.
Well, you destroy the club more, don't you, by putting Ronaldo on the bench? Imagine him and his team sitting on the bench for 3 games in a row. That you won't get more toxic an environment than that, I imagine. Yeah. It is a catch-22 is what I'm saying.
It absolutely is. But I think the first thing that Manchester United need to do is they need to get everybody on the same page. And if they're choosing this route of, going down the route of Liverpool, Bayern, Chelsea, then it's going to take 2 years to iron the squad out. Because, I always imagine when Jurgen Klopp interviewed for the Liverpool job, he told them what he wanted to do. Like in any job interview, you say, this is what I want to do. For me to do what I need, you need to get rid of these 7 players and you need to get me these 7 players. If you can't get me these 7 players, then here's a profile of a player that I want. And then you have a director of football who now has a remit to go away and realise, okay, I need to move these 7 players on. And I know this because we took 2 of them in Christian Benteke and Mamadou Sakho for 60 million quid to Crystal Palace. And that's why, that famous spend or net spend that Liverpool had for years, because he managed to offset an awful lot of the costs to build Jurgen Klopp. And he probably said to them, if you can do it in 2 windows, 3 windows, 4 windows, the sooner you can do this for me. And obviously the owner would have sat in on that. And then the owner looks at it and goes, no, I like this. We're going to go and do this. So now Jurgen Klopp goes and works on the coaching. Michael Edwards goes and works on putting the squad together. And the owner funds it. But all 3 departments are on the same page. I always get the feeling at Manchester United that all 3 departments don't even talk to each other. I'd be surprised, and I just feel that the manager sometimes has things forced on him, or he's not consulted. The director of football and the owner are worried about commercial issues as opposed to actual finding a system, and that's why Manchester United have a kind of a hodgepodge of players, because players have been brought in because a director of football or an owner would look at a player and go, geez, he's a good player, but the reason he's a good player is because he's playing in a certain system, and then United sign him and they put him in a different system and he's not playing well, like Jadon Sancho, case in point. He had a certain way of playing at Dortmund. A lot of his stuff was, internal runs from out wide, coming inside and linking play and getting close to the centre forward. Now at Manchester United, he has to stand on the touchline. I don't believe he's a winger. He's not a chalk on your heels guy. Take the ball and double step over and beat people. He's not. He loves internal runs. So why sign him and stand him on the wing?
But you'd have to think he'd be great for Rangnick. He'd be a Rangnick kind of player, wouldn't
he?
Yeah.
Absolutely. But Rangnick will have a plan for him, and that's what I'm saying. Like, he's probably stood at the touchline and probably been instructed to stand on the touchline and provide width. But again, if you're playing with someone like Ronaldo up front and your 2 wingers on the touchline, that means you've got 40 yards from Sancho to Ronaldo and 40 yards from Ronaldo to Greenwood. Ronaldo can't run, so you need to get legs around him. You need to get the midfield players up. You need to tuck the wide players in right alongside him, 10, 15 yards either side of him. Get Bruno 10 yards deep of him. Now all of a sudden you've insulated him. But for that to happen, the back 4 need to squeeze up onto the halfway line. You need to condense the play and make it workable for Ronaldo. And then out of possession, well, that's going to be interesting.
Johnny, we're going to find out pretty soon, is this a football club that wants to win things over the next few years and get back to where they were, playing a certain style like all the top clubs are doing now, Chelsea, City, Liverpool, or are they an entertainment brand? And if Rangnick can't stamp his authority on it, he's not going to succeed.
Yeah, because we have spent so many Saturdays here talking about Manchester United and Solskjaer up until obviously of late, and Saturday after Saturday after Saturday, repeat, and the Glazers are going to bed every night, absolutely delighted with life. They are in the entertainment business, things are going amazingly well for Rangnick. This sounds quite preposterous, but I think if you said to Rangnick, you can have this present Man United squad that you're taking over, or you can have this present Man United squad with Ronaldo not in the squad and with Pogba not at the club as well, take those 2 out. And I'd say that might be the easier option, because the Ronaldo thing is going to be such a difficult one for him. And it's not only when when United are pressing. Ronaldo outside the box, he doesn't have much to offer anymore, because obviously the legs aren't what they were. He's unbelievable in the box. He's still almost as good as ever. But in general play, when Man United are trying to build play, and Damo's on about them in possession, if Ronaldo's in possession around the halfway line, he just doesn't have the legs anymore, and that's a massive challenge for him in terms of how he's going to build a team that is able to press, because you can't half press. And I think that this shows to me why Alex Ferguson and Roy Keane the game has moved past them, when Ferguson was obviously famously seen saying you start with your best team. And Roy Keane had that spat with Carragher about starting Ronaldo against Chelsea. You start with your best players. Like, that just shows Roy Keane doesn't understand the game anymore. If you start a game against Chelsea with Ronaldo on the pitch, that's causing a lot of problems for you out of possession. And the game has moved on so much. Ronaldo would get away with this years ago, but even I was talking to a League of Ireland coach today, JD, and talking about signing a potential number 10 player. And even then you're like, what does he do off the ball? How good is he off the ball? And even at League of Ireland level, you're not going to get away with it as much anymore. And you certainly won't get away with it at Manchester United. And it's going to be really, really difficult for Rangnick, because he's coming in here and he has to deal with Ronaldo's situation. And for me, he can start every game because there are too many complications with that. And United have a million other problems beside. But I think if they start building a team that's based on the pace that they have on the break, with even a functional midfield that they have, but utilise that pace in the break, because once Ronaldo came into that Man United team, it stopped functioning. He was almost the only player that was actually playing reasonably well. It stopped functioning, everything fell apart, and Solskjaer lost his job. But those problems haven't gone away.
I really agree there, Johnny, because, you know, in the lesser games, Man United will be able to insulate him and work around him because they're going to be the dominant side or the opposition aren't good enough. But in the big games, the Liverpools, the Man Cities, you can't play him. You cannot carry a player when you're playing an elite level team. When they get to the latter stage of the Champions League, when the draw is made, he can't play those games, because if you go into those games with 10 outfield players, the opposition will absolutely they destroy you, because they'll find the weak spot every time. You know, and you can't ask someone. I know people say, oh, well, you know, we get midfield players who's running for him. If a midfield player is doing Ronaldo's running for him, it means that midfield player isn't doing his own running. And the opposition, the analysts now, will figure it out very, very quickly, and they'll say, this is what happens out of possession. He's not in position. So you find outs all the time. You continuously get at them. So I agree with you there. But whether Ronaldo will accept that reduced role, and the fact that he's just going to play in Premier League now against, you know, the everyone else except the big 4 or 5, remains to be seen. And I think that's kind of why Manchester City were contemplating signing him. Not in you know, you're going to play every week. Pep probably said, look, we didn't get our number 9 target in the summer, Harry Kane or whatever, but he can come in and play 20 games. He'll still get you 20 goals, but he's not playing every week. And then I think that when Man United took him off him, I think City probably actually went, you know, he's done us a favour there, because that could have been a mistake for us, because, you know, the circus that comes with him, you know, if he's on the bench now, Pep's every press conference, why is Ronaldo on the bench? Why is Ronaldo on the bench? But I'd say they were kind of almost panicked into it, because it's either that or what they're doing now, which is a false 9. But it was probably just something they were contemplating. But it is a big issue, and it's up to the manager to handle that.
Is it up to the manager, Damien? Because as far as the Glaziers are concerned, this is like us talking about trade.
Share price, yeah.
It's about us. No, let's trade Tom Brady, you know what I mean? Because they're thinking in a sporting sense, they won a Super Bowl with the same kind of system, they think, I imagine.
But are we then giving Manchester United too much credit to say that they have made a total shift and they're going to sort out the football club over the next 2-3 years?
No, they're just chancing their arm. They don't know what to do.
Well, that is a distinct possibility, that Rangnick probably just said whatever he wanted to say in the interview process, because he thought, I'm going to get this job if I just tell them what I want. And he gets the job, and Ronaldo has to play. Ronaldo's going to play. And then he's just kind of manages Manchester United. So I just wonder, are we giving the football club too much credit that they have turned a corner, or is it just going to be more of the same?
53106. There's any teammate of Ronaldo's questioned his professionalism, dedication and approach the media has, but never Keane, Ramos or Chiellini. What is wrong here? And another
Didn't question the fact that he's 37 in February.
Yeah, no one's questioned his professionalism.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he's obviously professional, but he has to be real too. You're not going to get 60 games out of him and win titles. It's not a criticism. It's just nature.
Yeah, I wonder if he doesn't play, we're going to have a lot of back pages about Ronaldo and his unhappiness and all that kind of thing, because we get that about Pogba every week. 53106. I think Rangnick can do great things with the squad, but as Damien says, Maguire is a huge problem. He needs to use Van de Beek and Lingard, 2 high energy players that have been used very poorly by the previous management. Lingard scored 10 goals and 5 assists in 16 games at West Ham, but has been left on the bench in favour of underperforming players this season. Ronaldo has to play. He was bought to be a centre forward, and all the young players around him have the ability to do the extra running that he can't do.
See, that's a mistake. That's incorrect. Not in, like, I agree with everything else he said there, except that last bit. In the modern game, you cannot carry anyone. It's too quick. The tactics are too good. Coaches, analysts are all too good. And if you've got one player that's not doing the same distance as everyone else, they're going to find you weak spots regularly.
You're 100% right, but he does have to play. Because
I agree.
There's that's why this is a merry-go-round conversation forever and ever until the season ends.
But there are Man United fans who are absolutely adamant that he must play, because all they can see is 12 goals in 16 games and him scoring every single game and a 5-4 in the last minute.
But 8th in the league or whatever they are now at the moment. I mean, that's the counter argument to that. 20 goals conceded or whatever. It's 20 now, is it, or even more? You know, so that's why exactly what I said at the top of the conversation. Personal statistics, his will always be through the roof, but it's got to be more than his personal statistics. Now, I know the argument that, you know, goals, you can't leave a goal scorer out, but if the greater good means that the team will do better and it'll defend better, it'll keep more clean sheets, and other players have to step up then and replace, or best they can, replace the goals that he scored. But you can't play a player for his own personal benefit at the detriment of the team. 24
goals scored, 24 conceded, in the Premier League, Damien, for Man United.
There you go. Like, I mean, that's a damning statistic. Like, for Manchester, 24 goals. That's outrageous. We Chelsea are what, like
9. That's after today.
Yeah, exactly. And City were 6, I think. I mean, you know, that's what teams do. Teams keep clean sheets. they don't give opposition chances. I'm not saying it's all down to Ronaldo here, by the way, but when you're playing man down, it can be very, very difficult. No, they obviously have a plethora of other problems as well, Maguire and Fred and whatnot. But I just think that the other ones are fixable. But
how fixable is Maguire? Because again, he's the English.
That's a brand thing. Like it's England's club captain. How do you drop Maguire and then without it being a big issue?
Because a new manager now can do that, because he has and this is why Rangnick coming in, he has no allegiance to any players. Solskjaer was definitely married to some players that they were going to play no matter what. The fact that Bailly got dropped against Arsenal, after doing reasonably well, was unfortunate. But I think the manager coming in, though, he doesn't owe anybody anything, because you got to understand from a manager's point of view, if you convince your owners to give you 50 million quid for a centre back and they give it to you, and then you go back 6 months later and say, I need another 50 million quid. I mean, that's Pep Guardiola gets away with that. When you think Claudio Bravo, Ederson, I want 80 million for a keeper, and then 6 months later, can I have another 80 million quid, please? Not many managers can get away with that. And if you're a manager and you drop Harry Maguire, the owner's going to ring you and say, well, you told me this guy was X, Y, and Z, and now he's not playing, and now you're asking me for another 80 million quid. That's not on. Man City, it might be on, but probably Pep's the only coach in the world who could actually get away with that, because obviously his record and whatnot, and they can just put it down to a mistake. But certain players played under him, but hopefully Rangnick has not got any allegiances, and he can make those changes. I don't think the Maguire one is fixable, because if you put him on the halfway line, he just hasn't got the mobility. He cannot do it. His decision making in open spaces will be poor because he hasn't got the mobility to do it. Bailly, and I said this, by the way, and you guys probably have it somewhere, I said United's best centre-back pairing is Bailly and Lindelof. So I wouldn't be averse to play Bailly and Lindelof, to be honest, if we're going with this pressing type game,
It's fascinating what's going to be the reaction of the Manchester United industrial complex of pundits, the Nevilles, the Keanes, the Scholes, Ferdinands and all this kind of thing, and then the English media, because the Lampard, there was a huge amount of sympathy for Lampard at Chelsea, I found, and then Tuchel comes in, wins the Champions League. You just can't say anything about Tuchel now until they start losing games, which they did today. That'll be the interesting part, because once again it's tied into this my whole view of Man United is this brand just as much as they are a football club at the moment.
What's Keane in the industrial complex? Is he like in the CIA or something like that? Like, what's going on? He's supposed to be in the house, but he's not.
Yeah. Your old boys, Crystal Palace, I'm enjoying the way they play. Damien, do you have any affinity as a former player for your extra club?
Yeah, of course you do. You always want to watch and how they're going, but they've, I think it's 3 wins, 2 defeats and 6 or 7 draws. And during the week, Tuesday night with Leeds, it was a 0-0 draw and they lost it. So if those handful of those draws start turning into losses, it could be a mediocre, if potential struggle even, if they start drifting down the league. So look,
do you talk to players? Do you talk to anybody at the club?
Yeah, of course.
Joe Ward or Will Staha?
Yeah, that one, maybe not Wilfred, but they love Vieira. Everyone at the club loves him. I think he's brilliant. His coaching, everything is fantastic. But there were so many changes, went on there in the summer. They've gone completely 180 degrees in the opposite direction from Roy Hodgson to Vieira. And there's going to be teething problems. And they started off reasonably well and they were winning games, or won a couple of games, beat Spurs. And then they had a couple of valiant draws where maybe they felt they should have got wins. And now it just seems to be a little bit flat or kind of, it's on a downward trajectory, losing to Leeds. And now you're going to Man United with a new manager. That's going to be a huge task for them. And all of a sudden then you've only got 3 wins all season. So staying up this year is huge. And I think the club had to make the shift that it made. And if they can stay up this year, they can build again and again and again. But there was always going to be teething problems when you churned out so many seasoned professionals and experienced players that Roy Hodgson only wanted to sign, and you bring in so many young, exciting, forward-thinking players, 2 centre-backs who are 21, 22 years of age. They've made a lot of mistakes this year, but they're inexperienced mistakes. They're terrible on set plays. I think it's 10 or 11 out of the 19 or 20 they've conceded are set plays. So that's something they're really struggling at. If they could iron that out, it would give them a better chance. And the 2 centre-backs, statistically, are up there with the best in the Premier League in terms of, in possession, pass completion rate, forward passes, progressive passes, everything. They're up there with all of them, but they're just very, very inexperienced, and they make poor decisions late in games. I think they've conceded 5 goals in injury time. But that's only something you get by playing. Mark Guay, he came out of Chelsea's academy.
Conor Gallagher as well. Chelsea.
Conor Gallagher, exactly. A lot of young players and a lot of mistakes. Sometimes it does take hard-nosed, seasoned professionals just to get games over the line. And when you get to a certain point in a game, you're winning like 82, 83 minutes. The manager's nice thoughts and nice passes go out the window. If it's got to go in Rosette, it goes in Rosette. And if it's not pretty, it's not pretty. Just get the result over the line, whatever way you need or whatever way you can. And I just think that's probably what they're lacking. But that's something they're obviously learning, but they're learning the hard way now.
Okay. It is mad when they'll be just looking at that tomorrow, JD. You'll have Roy Keane probably in the studio looking at it, and you think back him and Patrick Vieira, their clashes and that brilliant rivalry. And Patrick Vieira now is overcoming like a real handicap as a black manager and doing well and being like accepted as getting jobs in the Premier League, and he's doing extremely well. And Roy Keane is basically in the studio saying that Ronaldo should be starting every game, and they've gone different paths. It's
interesting. There's a Ronaldo defensive structure to the text messages coming out here on 53106 across the nation. Did any use not see Ronaldo running around and pressing in the game against Arsenal? Give over, pinning everything on Ronaldo. Bad punditry, following the sheep. Maguire is the fault for all the goal. Maguire
anything
following the black sheep. Yeah,
I don't understand that. It's an opinion, and I think it's an interesting take. I'm not blaming it all on Ronaldo.
No, you're not doing your job if United fans aren't piling into
Maguire is the fault for the goals conceded. Yeah, Ronaldo gets the blame. He got 2 goals. Again, changed the record. Another one. Man United are not carrying Ronaldo. They're carrying Fred, McTominay, Maguire, Bissaka. These players are the reason Man United are in trouble. And hi, lads, why not just bring Ronaldo on for the last 30 minutes of the match? Doesn't he mainly score in the last few minutes of the match anyway? Says Beardy Dave.
Definitely a good idea, but he'll throw all his toys out of the pram if that happens.